right, and we are now live on Facebook. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Adriana Stewart, and I'm currently a junior poli-sci and sports med double major studying at Howard University, and I have the pleasure of serving as PAWPAC's social media intern. PAWPAC is continuing our interview series with our endorsed candidates so that you all can get to know them better. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Little Rock City Director at Large Position 10 candidate Sheridan Richards. Sheridan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for your endorsement and for helping to spread the word about my campaign.
Of course, and we'll go ahead and jump right into the questions. So while we're aware that you are running for Little Rock City Director at Large Position 10, can you shine some light on who you are outside of politics?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I am a human resources professional. I've worked in the field for over 15 years. I provide strategic direction to executives, and I've worked across probably at this point 20 different industries. So I have a lot of fun with that. I am also a wife. I've been married for 11 years to my husband, John, who's a pastor in our community. I have 2 children, ages 5 and 10 years old, who attend public schools here in Little Rock. Aside from that, for my family, who is my world, the things I love doing for fun are roller skating. I love to dance, and I love serving with my church here in the community, as well as serving local nonprofits.
That is amazing. Thank you for that. And so we're going to transition a little bit. What moment, person, or event inspired you to run for Little Rock City Director?
Wow. What moment, person, or event? Well, I can be honest and tell you it wasn't just one thing. I was a political science major, so fist bump to you for majoring in poli-sci at Howard. And back then when I was studying in my undergraduate courses, I dreamed of getting involved in public politics. Like, that was a huge dream of mine. I learned about federal government and state government, but local government was what I felt like I belonged. It was like where my heartbeat was. And so this is a chance for me to lean into that. And that has informed my educational path. So I did political science for undergrad. And then later I attended Northwestern University, where I earned a Master of Arts in Public Policy and Administration. And so all this time I've been thinking about what I would do at the local level. Now that, combined with the pain points I've had during the time I've lived here in Little Rock, I've been grappling with the questions of why people have to travel across our city to shop at a grocery store. We have too many food deserts here. I've been grappling with how our zip codes can determine what kind of city resources we get, the level of responsiveness with policing. The inequity is what really drove me to throw my hat in the ring. And then on top of that, I started researching the positions that were up for election. And the one I chose to run for, which has been occupied by Joan Adcock for 28 years now, I started reading up on her and how she has voted in the past. And that drove me to throw my hat in the race. Some things that stood out to me that I don't think people are aware of if they're not paying attention to local government and our city board meetings is that she voted against renaming Confederate Boulevard to Springer Road. That's a problem. She also voted against removing Robert E. Lee from Martin Luther King Day holiday. That was a dual holiday here in Arkansas. And when our city board voted on the resolution to change that, to remove that symbol of hate and division, she was the person who voted against it. And when the board put forth their resolution to send to our state legislature, she asked that her name be removed from that letter. And so thinking through that, how she was comfortable maintaining these symbols of hatred, of insurrection, of terrorism, of division in our city, it made me question who she's truly representing. And I'm not convinced she's representing everyone equitably. And then to add to that, when there was a discussion of how to balance our city budget, her recommendation was to increase the citations that are given by our police officers and to increase our court fees. And if we look at the data and see how we give out more citations south of 630, which is where more Black and brown people live, that means that that kind of decision would have disparate impact on our community. And so all of that combined, it made me question, who is she representing? Is it fair? Is it equitable? And what can I do to be a part of this? And I felt if I didn't throw my hat in the ring, I was going to regret it. And so that, to answer your question, all of that combined is why I threw my hat in the ring.
And I know I'm appreciative of that, and other people are as well, because we need people who are going to step up to the plate and do what's right for the community. We have an understanding that platforms are very important as they allow voters to figure out which candidate is best for them. Your platform, entitled Fresh, includes many different aspects. Can you discuss how you went about selecting these areas to focus on?
Yes, so my platform is a fresh start, and it's actually a play on her being in her, Joan Adcock, being in her seat for 28 years and having a very stale perspective that she brings to our city board. And so I wanted to make sure we had a fresh vision for our city, that we infused life into how city government was run. And so I started dreaming about the things that I would like to see change. I'm gonna close my blinds. I think my sunlight is shifting a little bit. Is that better? Okay, thank you. I started researching the things I would like to see change in our city. And when I thought of our families, when I thought of our neighborhoods and neighborhood infrastructure, when I thought of, whether or not potholes get taken care of, whether or not trash is picked up equitably across our neighborhoods, whether or not policy is approached through a lens of equity, whether or not our children are getting the best educational experience they can get in the classroom. When I started thinking of all of that, our city is poised for growth. We have companies that are constantly looking at Little Rock and making decisions to move here. Do we have the talent to step into those jobs? And if not, what are we going to do about it? And then also looking at the division of our housing conversation. About a little more than half of our city is made up of renters, but often the conversation tends to cater towards the landlords, and, well, depending on who you talk to, it'll cater toward the landlords with some groups, and then with other groups, it'll cater towards the renters. And so I started thinking, we need a balanced solution to this conversation, especially in the midst of a pandemic when we're trying to avoid a housing crisis. And so all of those thoughts were flooding my mind, and I thought, okay, I can't pick just one or two or three things. And so I formed the acronym FRESH, which is part of A Fresh Start. And FRESH represents family, reading, equity, skill development, and housing. And my philosophy is that regardless of where you sit in life, whatever your zip code is, whatever your socioeconomic level is, whatever your background is, if you're LGBT, if you're Black, Latino, white, whatever your background is, these are values that we can all rally behind. And collectively, these things will make our city better. Whether you care about just one of those things or all of them, it's going to make it better. And then the other thing I thought of is with FRESH, which I told you stands for Family, Reading, Equity, Skill Development, and Housing. Equity is at the center of that. And that is important to me because everything we do, how we vote, whether we choose to vote yes or no on something, whether we abstain from voting, whether we propose a new policy or a new regulation for our city, everything should be approached through the lens of equity. And if it's not, then it's going to have disparate impact on someone. And so someone needs to be thinking about how policies are going to impact our residents and make sure we're advocating for things that are fair. So a fresh start is all of that, but it's also telling people that the person in this seat for 28 years, Joan Adcock, has a stale perspective for our city. And I wanted to convey what a fresh start can do if we start looking at our city through fresh eyes.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And your platform touches many different areas. You mentioned the fresh part, a fresh start, and that's kind of the part I want to focus on a little bit. And so you had said it was family, reading, equity, skill development, and housing. Can you touch on how you plan to enhance the aspects that you chose as the Little Rock City Director for position 10?
Yes, thank you. Good question. So I want to start off by saying nothing happens without partnerships. And so I come into this role with my HR background. My background is building partnerships, maintaining them, identifying shared goals and outcomes, and working towards that together. And so I step into this role thinking through what partnerships can we enhance or do we need to form so that we can move our city forward. And so with that, I'll talk about each pillar for a few moments. With the family piece, I'm thinking of our neighborhoods first and foremost. Your zip code should not determine how beautifully your neighborhood is maintained by our city government. I'm thinking of the potholes, the street pavements, street lighting, making sure that our government is maintaining all the neighborhoods in an equitable fashion. I also, when I think of families, I think of the need for more recreational options. We have too many young families that are heading to Northwest Arkansas or to Dallas or to Memphis because they're looking for a place to have a good time. We have some fun things to do here. We have great outdoor recreational activities, but we need more creative options for families to take advantage of. And so when I think of the family component, I'm thinking of all types of families, whether you're a single household, a blended family, LGBTQ communities. I want this to be a community where everyone can thrive and feel like they have a place to go and can have a good time. When I think of the reading aspect of Fresh, the reason I worked that into the campaign platform is because I am a board member of a local nonprofit that provides after-school reading resources and programming for children throughout Central Arkansas. Here in Little Rock, 60% of our third graders are not reading at grade level. And I don't know if you know that that third grade level is pretty pivotal when you think of outcomes with regard to whether or not children end up going to college, whether they end up choosing a path that leads to jail. That third grade statistic has a lot of research behind it. And so the nonprofit I'm with, we are working on improving reading literacy for all elementary age children because we believe that will improve educational outcomes. Now here in Little Rock, we're getting ready to elect a new school board. And so I think we have a unique opportunity to form a partnership between our city board and our school board to figure out how can we make sure our children have the resources that they need in order to succeed in the classroom. I think our teachers are the MVPs, especially right now in the midst of a pandemic. They are the true MVPs. And I think they're doing a fabulous job. We need to make sure our children are equipped to take in everything they're getting in the classroom. One thing I want to mention about that is I shared that idea of partnering with the school board at a recent neighborhood association meeting. And Joan Adcock was there, the incumbent. And when I said that, her response was that was not a city director's job, that we should not be thinking about our schools. And as a mother of a child who's in 5th grade and in kindergarten who are attending our public schools, that's a problem for me because I need to know that our city board is thinking about our children who are the future of this city. And so I want our audience to know that if you give me your vote in November, I'm not just fighting for the adult residents, I'm also thinking of our children because they are the future of this city. So that's the reading aspect of Fresh. If we move on to equity, I would say that's the broadest aspect of the platform. And that looks at eliminating food deserts so that people are not traveling across the city in order to go shopping for their groceries. It looks at creating equitable access to healthcare, to transportation, to all of our city resources. I've been talking to constituents, and one of the moms I spoke with has a child with special needs. And she had to advocate for him.
Hello, everyone. We apologize for the technology inconvenience, but we are back. And I'm going to pick up where we left off. So the question was, we were focusing on the Fresh part of your platform. And you had mentioned it stands for Family, Reading, Equity, Skill Development, and Housing. You had already touched on family and reading. So can you shine some light on equity, skill development, and housing as far as how you plan to enhance these areas?
Yes, happy to. And thanks for your patience with technology. So with equity, that focuses on eliminating our food deserts in our city because people should not have to travel across town just to buy their basic food items that they need for their home. It also ensures people have equitable access to healthcare and transportation. But I also want to do some civic education to let people know the channels that they can take advantage of in order to access city resources. For example, I've been talking to constituents, and one of the moms I spoke with who comes from a pretty affluent family, she has a child with special needs, and the school district reduced her son's hours without talking to her first, and she was not happy about it. So she advocated for her son, and over time was able to get those hours back up to the level they should have been in the first place. Now, compare that to that child's classmate whose parents do not come from an affluent community and are not college educated. This family, their son experienced the same thing. Services reduced, no conversation with the parents first, but these parents did not know that they could have a conversation, a follow-up conversation to advocate and not accept no as the final answer. And so when you think of those two different outcomes, one child's going to get the services he should be getting, and the other child is not going to get them because the parents didn't know they could fight for them. And so some civic education is needed, and that's what I think would add value to our residents. When I think of equity, it's broad. It's covering those basic needs, but also showing our residents how to navigate the proper channels of communication. The S stands for skill development, and this is the workforce development arm of the campaign. I'm a human resources professional, as I told you earlier, and this is my way of bringing my HR experience into the conversation. So our city is poised for growth. We have companies moving here, and we're poised to grow exponentially over the next 2 to 5 years. The question I have is whether or not our residents will be ready to step into those jobs that are going to exist here over that time frame. And I'm concerned that we are not ready. We already have companies down at the ports that are having trouble filling jobs for that same reason. And so I want our city to focus on reskilling and upskilling our workforce so that we're ready to step into these positions when they come. This will prevent us from having to recruit outside the city of Little Rock to fill these jobs, and also help our residents improve their lifestyles as they step into these higher talent, higher performing opportunities. So that's exciting to me. The H stands for housing, and this is because we need affordable pathways to home ownership. We also need to balance the conversation between our renters and our landlords. As we work through getting this pandemic together, a lot of people tend to cater towards one side or the other. Either they're just for the landlords, making sure that they're taken care of, or they're just for the renters. And my perspective is no one should be left holding the bag. We need an equitable solution for everyone. There have been some changes implemented recently where our city has announced that there is some grant funding available that renters can apply to, which I think is fantastic because it doesn't force landlords to screen people to see whether or not they truly need help paying their rent. But this is a short-term solution. And so I am concerned that we need something long-term because we probably have at least another year to go before this pandemic is going to be over. So when I think of the FRESH platform, which is family, reading, equity, skill development, and housing, all of these issues, all of these topics are important to me. But if you were to ask me what is the most urgent, I would say housing is the most urgent because of our pandemic. And so for me, that would be the first thing I would focus on, but collectively, those are my priorities.
And those are some amazing areas to focus on. I know personally, I can relate to some of them. And so it's good to see that you are taking these in and trying to work with them and make it better. We've touched on many different topics today, but is there anything else you'd like to speak on or add to or just discuss?
Yes, thank you for asking. So I want our audience to know that if you give me your vote in November, I will fight to take this at-large seat to the next level. I want to establish partnerships in our city to help move our city forward. And I also want to establish accountability so that those who are working in city government are held accountable for getting their jobs done. The incumbent, Joan Adcock, who's been in her role for 28 years, she does not bring a vision to her role. If you elect her, it's going to be business as usual. And I want to put that out there because I am concerned when I ask people, why do they keep voting for her? What I hear is, she gets my trash picked up. Or if there's a mattress on my street, she makes a call and gets it done. If I am not able to pay my rent, she takes care of it. I want you to know I will still provide that level of service, but at the same time, I'll be looking at the systemic level to figure out why are these issues still occurring? If this particular neighborhood is not getting their trash picked up, let's not handle it in one-off ways. I mean, if you call me, of course I will, but I also want to figure out how can we establish accountability so that the trash pickup is no longer an issue. I want to make sure everyone in our city is represented fairly and bring the voice of our constituents to our city board meetings. I am looking for people to stand shoulder to shoulder with me through your votes and through your giving. I need donations to help cover the advertising expenses. Campaigning in the midst of a pandemic is challenging because we cannot get in front of people. That's why we're talking to you via Zoom right now. So we are trying to cover advertising for radio, for signage. We need your help. So please go to votesheridanrichards.com and make a contribution. Please tell all your friends, your families, your coworkers about the Fresh Start movement and encourage them to choose me as their candidate for position 10. That is votesheridanrichards.com. We have so much at stake, and I am concerned that we are getting distracted by the federal election, which is very important. We should be thinking about the presidential race and who's running for Senate and Congress, but I don't want people to ignore what's happening at the local level, because at the end of the day, we are the ones who decide where the money goes in our city. And so I need you to know that if you vote for me, you will vote for someone who is going to fight to make sure that our resources are distributed equitably. That's votesheridanrichards.com. I want to thank PAWPAC for your endorsement, and thank you for helping me spread the word.
Of course. And I really like that you touched on the importance of local government. That actually plays a major role in our lives in comparison to federal government when you look at everything. So I really do appreciate you shining light on that. And I want to thank you for taking the time to join me today to discuss key elements from your platform and allowing us to get to know who you are. I hope everyone has been motivated to vote come November 3rd. And I thank everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.